Imagine a world shrouded in darkness. Superstition reigns supreme. The streets are filled with whispers of fear and uncertainty, and the common people live under the heavy yoke of ignorance and oppression. Power rests in the hands of a few. The aristocracy and the church hold sway over every aspect of life, dictating what is right and wrong, what is true and false. This was Europe in the 18th century, before the dawn of the Enlightenment. A time when the light of knowledge was dim, and the shadows of dogma and tyranny loomed large over the continent. But a spark was about to ignite a firestorm of change, a single flame that would grow into a beacon of hope and reason, challenging the darkness that had long prevailed. That spark was a man named Voltaire, a figure whose ideas and writings would come to symbolize the very essence of the Enlightenment. Voltaire wasn't his real name. He was born François-Marie Arouet in 1694, in a world that would soon be transformed by his intellect and wit. He was born François-Marie Arouet in 1694. From a young age, he showed a remarkable talent for writing and a keen intellect that set him apart from his peers. But he chose a new name, a bolder name: Voltaire. It was more than just a pseudonym. It was a declaration of his intent to challenge the status quo and to speak truth to power. It was a declaration of war against the old order. Voltaire's writings would become a rallying cry for those who sought to break free from the chains of tradition and oppression. Voltaire was a writer, philosopher, and satirist. His works spanned a wide range of genres, from plays and poems to essays and letters, each one infused with his sharp wit and incisive criticism. He dared to challenge the powerful and champion the oppressed. Voltaire's voice became a powerful tool for social change as he fearlessly confronted the injustices of his time. His weapon of choice? The written word. With his pen, Voltaire could cut through the lies and deceit of those in power, revealing the truth to all who would listen. Voltaire wielded language with surgical precision. He exposed hypocrisy. He ridiculed injustice. His satire was both a mirror and a hammer, reflecting society's flaws and smashing through its pretenses. And he inspired generations to question everything. Voltaire's legacy is one of critical thinking and relentless pursuit of truth, encouraging others to look beyond the surface and to seek deeper understanding. This is the story of Voltaire, a man who dared to light a candle in the darkness and illuminate the path towards reason and progress. His life and work continue to inspire us to this day, reminding us of the power of ideas and the enduring strength of the human spirit. Born into a world of privilege, young François-Marie Arouet seemed destined for a life of comfort and conformity. His father, a wealthy lawyer, envisioned a legal career for his son. But François had other ideas. His rebellious spirit emerged early on. He was a bright and precocious child, devouring books and displaying a sharp wit that often landed him in trouble. Formal education held little appeal for the young Voltaire. He found more inspiration in the plays and poetry that fueled his imagination. Even in his youth, Voltaire questioned authority and embraced the power of satire. He used his wit to challenge societal norms and mock the hypocrisy he saw around him. This rebellious streak would become his trademark. Voltaire's sharp tongue and even sharper pen soon made him enemies among the French elite. His wit and criticism were not just casual remarks, but powerful commentaries that exposed the flaws and corruption within the upper echelons of society. His words were like daggers, piercing through the facades of those in power. His satirical writings, often critical of the powerful and privileged, led to multiple arrests and even a stint in the Bastille, a notorious Parisian prison. Exile became his fate. The Bastille, with its cold, damp cells, was a stark contrast to the opulent salons where he once debated and discussed ideas. It was a place meant to break spirits, but for Voltaire, it only fueled his resolve. Forced to flee France, Voltaire found refuge in England. The journey across the English Channel was not just a physical escape, but a symbolic passage to a new world of ideas and freedoms. As he set foot on English soil, he was filled with a sense of hope and anticipation. This period of exile proved to be a turning point in his life. England, with its rolling green countryside and bustling cities, offered a stark contrast to the turmoil he left behind in France. Here, he found a society that valued intellectual discourse and welcomed diverse opinions. England's relatively liberal society, with its emphasis on individual liberties and freedom of expression, deeply impressed Voltaire. The English Parliament, with its debates and discussions, was a beacon of democratic principles. The newspapers and pamphlets circulating in coffeehouses were filled with ideas and arguments that invigorated his mind. He was captivated by the ideas of John Locke, Isaac Newton, and other Enlightenment thinkers. Locke's theories on government and human rights, and Newton's groundbreaking work in science, opened new vistas of thought for Voltaire. He spent countless hours in libraries, devouring books and engaging in spirited discussions with fellow intellectuals. England opened Voltaire's eyes to a new way of thinking. The coffeehouses, often referred to as penny universities, became his second home. Here, he met with philosophers, scientists, and writers, exchanging ideas and debating the issues of the day. These interactions were instrumental in shaping his philosophical outlook. He embraced the principles of reason, tolerance, and individual liberty. These were not just abstract concepts, but guiding principles that he believed could transform society. He began to see the power of reason as a tool to challenge ignorance and superstition, and tolerance as a means to foster harmony and understanding among people. These ideas would become the cornerstones of his life's work. Voltaire's time in England was a period of profound intellectual growth and transformation. The works he produced during and after this period would go on to influence generations of thinkers and revolutionaries, cementing his legacy as one of the leading figures of the Enlightenment. Section 4. The Pen is Mightier, Voltaire's Literary Onslaught. Returning to France, Voltaire embarked on a literary crusade that would span decades. He wrote tirelessly, producing plays, poems, novels, essays, and historical works. His pen became a weapon against injustice, superstition, and tyranny. Voltaire's writings were witty, engaging, and often scandalous. He used satire to expose the hypocrisy of the French aristocracy and the church. He championed reason and scientific inquiry, challenging traditional beliefs and dogmas. His plays, like Zaïre and Candide, became instant classics. They were performed across Europe, spreading Voltaire's message of tolerance and reason to a wide audience. Section 5. Candide's Journey, Satire as a Weapon. One of Voltaire's most enduring works, Candide, remains a masterpiece of satire. This picaresque novel follows the naive Candide as he journeys through a world filled with suffering, injustice, and absurdity. Through Candide's misadventures, Voltaire skewered the blind optimism of the time. He challenged the belief that everything happens for the best. He exposed the horrors of war, religious fanaticism, and human cruelty. Candide wasn't just a funny story, it was a call to action. Voltaire urged his readers to reject blind faith and embrace reason. He challenged them to create a better world through action, not just empty optimism. Section 6. Champion of Tolerance, Battling Injustice with Wit. Voltaire wasn't just a critic of society. He was a passionate advocate for justice and tolerance. He used his fame and influence to defend the oppressed and challenge religious persecution. One of his most famous quotes perfectly captures his philosophy. "I disapprove of what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it." This belief in freedom of speech, even for those he disagreed with, set Voltaire apart as a true champion of individual liberty. He believed that all individuals, regardless of their beliefs, deserved respect and fair treatment. This made him a powerful voice for change in an era marked by intolerance and oppression. Section 7. The Calas Affair, a turning point for Voltaire. This event marked a significant shift in Voltaire's life and work, highlighting his commitment to justice and human rights. The Calas Affair became a defining moment in Voltaire's life, not just as a writer, but as a fervent advocate for justice and equality. It showcased his relentless pursuit of truth and his willingness to challenge the status quo. In 1762, Jean Calas, a Protestant merchant, was accused of murdering his own son to prevent his conversion to Catholicism. This accusation was steeped in religious prejudice and unfounded suspicions, reflecting the deep-seated intolerance of the time. Calas was tortured and executed, despite a lack of evidence. The brutal methods used to extract a confession and the subsequent execution highlighted the severe injustices prevalent in the judicial system of the era. Voltaire, outraged by this miscarriage of justice, took up the case with characteristic zeal. He was deeply moved by the plight of the Calas family and saw this as an opportunity to fight against the systemic injustices that plague society. He launched a public campaign to overturn the verdict. Voltaire's efforts were not just limited to writing. He engaged in extensive correspondence, mobilized public opinion, and used his influence to garner support for the cause. He wrote letters, pamphlets, and even a book, Treatise on Tolerance, denouncing the trial and demanding justice for Calas. This work became a seminal text advocating for religious tolerance and criticizing the abuses of power by the authorities. Voltaire's efforts ultimately led to the posthumous exoneration of Jean Calas. This victory was not just a personal triumph for Voltaire, but a significant milestone in the fight for justice and human rights. The case became a rallying cry for religious tolerance and a powerful indictment of the abuses of power within the justice system. It underscored the need for reform and the importance of standing up against injustice, no matter how entrenched it may seem. Voltaire's relentless pursuit of justice in the Calas affair left an indelible mark on history, inspiring future generations to continue the fight for equality and human rights.